Hello and welcome back everyone to An Uncertain Future. This is Season 2, Part 3. If you missed the last one, it didn't have a premiere, but it was uploaded on Sunday. So watch that and then come back because, well, I would appreciate it. I really like this video. I hope you do too. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Enjoy. Kenma blinked against the lights and groaned. Someone had opened the curtains while he was asleep, so that now brilliant sunlight was flooding the room. It blinded him, and he was quick to grab a pillow to hide underneath. The warmth tickled his nose, and he sneezed. The very familiar sound of Bokuto cooing over him in exaggerated adoration echoed to his right, and he rolled his eyes. In a futile attempt to get at least a tiny bit more rest, he tried hiding his face in the pillow. The alpha nudged him gently in the side and carefully shook him awake. He groaned. Kenma? Just ignore him, it's gonna be fine. Just go back to sleep. Kenma, love? A slight whine accompanied his words, and Kenma could already imagine the sad puppy eyes looking at him as if he had eaten the last cookie. It wasn't fair. Go. It's too early. Let me sleep. Sleep is good for the baby. The alpha whined again, and when he nuzzled his nose in the omega's neck, his touch seemed almost hesitant. The smaller sighed and turned around. You know that this isn't fair, right? Bokuto's eyes lit up as he started peppering his face with kisses. Maybe, but it's totally worth it. He smiled widely and rubbed gently over the scent gland at his neck, coaxing a soft purr from the gamer. I thought you have to go to practice again. His protest got progressively weaker, and he leaned into the tender touches with ease. I do, but can you send me before I leave? Kenma paused. His eyes, which had slowly started closing again, opened, and he looked at the alpha, confused. It wasn't the first time he had asked one of them to send him, but it wasn't usual either. Most of the time he requested it for good luck before an important game, or whenever he had a really bad day and needed something to ground him. Concerned, Kenma searched his face for any sign of distress. As he cupped the alpha's cheeks, Bokuto's lips pulled up even higher into an almost feral, happy grin, and he traced the soft skin of his face with his thumb. Why? He leaned in closer and breathed in deeply to pick up on any sign of discomfort in his scent, but nothing. The earthy scent of oak wood remained light, potent on his tongue. It calmed the omega immediately, and he felt his worry turning to mere curiosity. I love the way your scent changed. I know we aren't telling anyone yet, but they won't notice from the scent alone. It's still faint. However, I will know, and I... He stammered a little. His face reddened, yet his smile never faded. Okay. Without giving it much thought, Kenma simply let his wrist sink to the alpha's neck and throat as he applied his pheromones evenly on the skin. The friction stimulated his scent glands, and slowly but surely the air filled with a mixture of petrichor, linen, and the faint touch of milk and cotton. Bokuta's chest rumbled and what sounded almost like a purr, and a quiet chuckle slipped past Kenma's lips. He finished by pulling himself up by the alpha's broad shoulders and placing a soft kiss on his forehead. The other grinned before tackling him on the bed and peppering his face with kisses again. Kenma burst out laughing as he started to tickle his sides and weakly fought him off. He kissed the trail down his neck, and his hand found its way to his stomach again as he caressed it softly. I love you. Both of you. He let out a content sigh, completely oblivious to the increasing blush on Kenma's cheeks. Kaotaro, you're going to be late. Akashi appeared in the doorframe, a cup of tea in hand and trying to put on a disapproving frown, yet it failed miserably. The dark-haired Omega usually was very skilled at masking his emotions, yet the sight in front of him left him weak on his knees. It was a pleasant kind of overwhelming. His eyes lingered on Bokuta's hand on Kenma's stomach, and for a moment he searched their bond for any kind of distress from Kenma, but found none. He wasn't foolish enough to think that all his anxiety and concerns regarding the pregnancy had vanished at once, but it seemed as though they were all basking in the joy it brought them, in which they had denied themselves for so long. Especially Bokuta's enthusiasm and delight seemed contagious. Over the years since they all bonded, the emotions of his mates had become a steady presence in the back of his mind, yet as of lately the alpha's happiness was always front and center. His influence had always been strong, uncontained and pure, and yet this was a newfound level of intensity and a welcome one at that. It seemingly allowed Kenma to let go of his intrusive thoughts for once. Living up to their name, he had of course no control over them, yet maybe this newly discovered thrill would allow him to drown them out for at least a while. No need to face reality now. It would get them soon enough. Every second the small Omega could spend like this, unbothered and relaxed, was incredibly precious. Akashi's lips formed a loving smile as Bokuto hastily gathered his things and gave him a goodbye kiss on the way out, brave but passionate. And even after years of getting used to it, a familiar heat crept up his cheeks and his smile grew. He stepped into the room, only now realizing that against his expectations, Bokuto's scent wasn't the one predominating the air, and for a second the concerned frown returned. He asked me to send him. The small Omega yawned and carefully sat up in bed. A small sound of acknowledgement passed the other's lips as he set down the cup on the nightstand and took place beside the other Omega. Why? A small smile tugged Kenma's lips upward, and he let his head fall against Akashi's shoulders naturally and unbothered. He said he liked the way my scent has changed. The smaller chuckled again. Automatically, Akashi breathed in deeper, only now drawing his focus to the hints of line and milk. Yet, when he did, it sparked a new kind of excitement within him. Every breath was a testament that it was real. Kenma was really with child. They would have a cup sooner than expected. His heartbeat accelerated in a nervous thrill, taking over his body, itching right beneath the skin as he was torn between joy and worry. Now that Bokuta's influence slowly ebbed as the distance between them grew, his concerns returned full force, even though he tried to harness them for Kenma's sake. Keiji, I'm sorry. Don't worry, my love. It is just my anxiety, but I got it under control. Kenma's brows twitched as he looked at him with worry. Those golden eyes stared at him with vigilance. They seemed filled with burning embers lingering just under the surface, intense yet subtle. Do you want to talk about it? Akashi sighed, because yes, he did. He didn't want to stress out Kenma. This whole thing was a gamble, a risk he didn't know if he should take. But Kuro and Bokuto weren't here, and he wouldn't lie to his mates. He nodded. Yes, please. The fox-blonde Omega planted his chin on Akashi's thigh, looking up at him and waiting for the other to start. He took a deep breath, his hand finding Kenma's hair naturally as he started to play with the bleached strands. I'm worried, but I guess you can tell that much. It is nothing new, really, just this all, and that we might not be as prepared as we thought. He took a short break to gather his thoughts, and Kenma just waited patiently. There is all the general stuff that simply comes with parenthood. What if I won't be a good father? What if I mess it up? An absolute absurd concept in Kenma's eyes. Akashi would make the perfect dad. He was considerate and smart, didn't lose his patience over weird antics, and loved with all of his heart. But more importantly, there's you and your well-being. Kenma, at and foremost, I wish I could take this burden from you. I'm worried that this state of happiness might just be temporary and that you'll regret it as time moves on. I'm worried that our excitement for it all, for starting a family, might have pressured you into making this choice, and that this choice would turn out to be the wrong one for you. That it'll make you unhappy. Kenma reached his hand out to take a hold of Akashi's that was still in his hair and guided it to his face. He placed gentle kisses along the sand gland on his wrist before positioning it against his cheek and leaning into the touch. You didn't pressure me into anything. I can't speak on whether I will regret it or not, only time will tell, but if I ever should, it was not your fault. You're not to blame, not in the way you think. The amber of his eyes was gentle yet piercing as he looked at the Tala. I understand where you're coming from. Very much so, but don't forget that I have been looking forward to this as well. Not like this, certainly not with me carrying, but I didn't just agree to expand a family for your sake. Akashi sighed, grateful for the reassurance the other provided. They sat in silence for a moment, letting the morning sun caress their skin and the slight breeze deriving from the open windows stirring the pheromones in the air. The dark-haired Omega continued to trace imaginary lines on Kenma's face and neck, while brushing his hair back whenever it fell, blocking his sight of the beautiful golden irises. Tenderly he cupped his cheeks and motioned for him to sit up a little. The other followed his lead without hesitation. The lips touched in a loving kiss, quickly deepening as Kenma's lips parted. Akashi took his time exploring his mouth with his tongue, the sweet taste of Bokuto still lingering on his lips and mixing with his own. Kenma's lips were soft as they moved in perfect sync against Akashi's. The Tala pulled back without another thought as Kenma moved closer, licking into his mouth in return, exploring him as he did Kenma. The sly Omega nibbled a little at his bottom lip, making Akashi gasp in surprise, blush darkening and leaving him vulnerable, disarmed as the other clamped on his lap. When they separated, a thin string of saliva connected their lips, mere centimeters between them. Kenma admired the sight of Akashi beneath him. The Omega's eyes had clouded slightly with an unspoken want, pupils dilated widely, while his face had taken the most delicate shade of crimson. He leaned down to his ears, biting down on the soft skin before leaving a trail of conciliatory kisses and whispering, "You're beautiful." Before long, the ravenet's hands had found his waist and held him firmly in place as they found themselves entangled in a series of kisses, drowning in leisure or pleasure in each other's presence. Akashi kissed and caressed his skin as if he worshipped him. He followed an imaginary line down his jaw and neck until he reached his mate mark. It was placed right next to those of Kuro and Bokuto, and Kenma shuddered as he kissed all three of them, slowly, longingly. His whole body shivered and he let out a high-pitched sound, something between a gasp for air and a moan. Akashi chuckled against his neck as he sensed the slowly intensifying pheromones. This is what got us into all this trouble. Kenma laughed as well and let himself fall back, only held by Akashi's arms. Yeah, though I'm afraid Kuro or Bokuto are to blame for that. Most likely. He placed Kenma gently back on the mattress and planted his chin on the smallest chest. Does it make you sad that it's not gonna be yours? His eyes met Akashi's, golden ember falling into ocean green, the other side. You are always so worried about hurting me. Tetsu and you are quite alike in that point. The cat-like eyes remained focused on him as he patiently awaited his answer. Kenma, it's gonna be my child, even if I'm not the one carrying it. The blonde rolled his eyes. You know what I mean. Akashi nodded slowly and grinned before kissing Kenma's neck again, this time kissing his way up to his temple and back down to his nose and finally his mouth. My answer stays the same though. I don't care as long as we are together. I love you, and I will love them with all of my heart and soul. He leaned his forehead against Kenma's. Nothing can ever change that, or take this from us. Kenma breathed in assent deeply. His hands found Akashi's face again and he pulled him down for another kiss. His nervousness and the remains of the itching anxiety bled into his movement as he pressed himself closer with a certain desperation. As if he was chasing the feeling from before, the reassurance and connection, as if Akashi's devotion to him was limited, as if it could run out. The taller indulged him, yet after a minute slowly broke the kiss and simply changed to holding the omega. A small sob tore from the smaller, yet it was followed almost immediately by a nervous chuckle. Sorry, hormones. Akashi kissed his temple again. He gently took the hand that was still lingering against his cheek and kissed each of his fingertips softly. I love you, Kenma, and if you ever doubt that, please tell me immediately so that I can reassure you. This is important, especially with the pregnancy proceeding. Your chances for a drop are increasing. Kenma nodded weakly, placing his head against the small of his neck again. I love you too. Akashi grinned. I know. I can feel it. He leaned down, kissing their mark again. They lay in blissful silence for a while, only interrupted by whispering promises and sweet nothings finding their way into hushed hums. Keiji? Thanks for telling me. Of course. I trust you. Kenma purred in bliss and contentment. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe because it would really help me out a lot. Also, again, thank you so much for watching till here. You have no idea how good this is for the algorithm. And yeah, I thought we needed some Akaken fluff. I hope you enjoyed this. Tell me your favorite quote in the comments and your theories on how the next parts are going to develop. There will be some conflict again soon because I need conflict in my life. No, kidding. I don't need it in my life. I need it in my stories. Special thanks to my nerdy neckos. You help this channel out so much. If you are not a nerdy necko and want to consider like helping me out a ton, look at the join button under this video. And otherwise, it would also really help me if you just click on another video or write a comment with what you thought was great and when it was not great. Tell me everything. Now I hope you have one for an amazing.
Everybody just do your thing. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.